Welcome to the Varan Godzilla podcast, the Godzilla podcast on Varan. I'm Drew.
Yes. I am Joe.
And we are bringing you today, for your listening pleasure, Varan, or Giant Monster Varan, Dai Kaiju Varan, the Japanese version of the film we viewed last time.
Yes, and you know, Drew, after watching the atrocity of the American version of Varan, knowing, of course, that much like the original Godzilla film turned into Godzilla King of the Monsters, it was screwed with by an American production company.
Chopped up. The Godzilla original lost
Reframed.
about 20-something minutes. This one lost, I don't know, a lot.
Almost all?
I'm looking at it right now.
There's even moments with the monster that were cut out, which is odd because, like, that's what you're selling.
It felt like the monster was more in the American, but I don't know. Maybe it was more exciting when we saw him in the American version.
Well, there is like 20 minutes added, and maybe they took out 2 minutes of the monster, but still, there is one scene in particular in this version that I was surprised was not in the American version because it was an awesome scene
right.
in comparison to the rest of the movie. So
we're going to get to this.
We are going to get to this.
For those who have not ever listened to us before, we are a commentary / podcast. That means you can either watch the film, which this time it's going to be a little difficult. We bought this for, I believe they're almost always $12.95 off of Sumo Gorilla. Yeah, that's right. Sumo Gorilla, the site that probably doesn't want to be advertised, but we buy a lot of stuff off of them. And Joe, you know what? I discussed this with you when we viewed this film on Tuesday.
Frankly.
So am I. We would not be able to get a hold of so many things, or
we'd have to be one of those lesser Godzilla podcasts that does whatever version's available.
The bare minimum. But what we are going to get to the next two. Okay, so let me continue. Commentary / podcast. You can listen to it with the film. This one we bought off that website, Sumo Gorilla, so it's going to be a little bit harder for you to get a hold of. You'll know our verdict by the end, whether or not you should even purchase it or just listen to us. But most of the time,
as a podcast.
Just listen to it as a podcast. It's a entertaining listen, you don't need. We hope we got enough people listening by this point. But you don't need the film. And honestly, if it's a bad enough giant monster film, just listen to the podcast. Have fun with it, rather, because you'll have more fun listening to this than you will watching this film. I can just say that now, and you don't have to. That's my personal opinion. What do you think, Joe?
I think that we should press play. Are you ready, Drew?
Yes. So we are on the 0:00 mark, and we're gonna start it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh man, Drew. So, what kind of movie did you expect before watching this? After seeing the American film?
Well,
I say film loosely.
Yeah, the American
thing, atrocity
shot on film, video, the American video. Yeah, atrocity of images. Yeah. Hey, Joe. So right out the gate, the movie, it shows this statue of something that's supposed to depict Varan. You know what I was thinking? Varan, when you see his face, not in profile, but straight on, doesn't it really look like that like sculpture or whatever the heck that was?
I don't think it looks like it that much at all.
I think it looked like it quite a bit.
Oh, really?
So I think that because you look at it,
it kind of looks like the thing that we see in Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. What is that?
King Caesar.
King Caesar.
Yeah, it does look more like King Caesar, but with the bulging eyes and everything. Because that's something you mentioned about Varan when he's looking straight at you. It's like, oh, big eyes, and they're kind of like bulging out of the side of his head. It's like they're reptilian, where they're on the side of the head, but instead of a normal reptile, which they're looking outward, they're looking straight forward at you. But yeah, I just think that perhaps they modeled the actual suit, the monster like Varan, his suit, after that sculpture, and it's not that great.
So if you didn't join us last time, and basically this movie was a botched television production. So in 1958, Toho had been commissioned to produce a television series for ABC with financial backing coming from the network's motion picture division called ABPT.
Yeah.
It
all just seems like something went wrong in that they were consolidating their resources, like putting in these other subsidiaries.
Yeah. No one realizes, no one has any idea what actually happened. At least none of our sources could find out, what the actual thing that went down was.
What we know confirmed is that they pulled out, but how the details are.
Midway through production, they had already filmed a bunch of stuff. The deal fell through with ABPT, and Toho decided to distribute the film for its domestic audiences and put together a Japanese film. It was originally an English language film. They put together a Japanese film for their own audiences.
Yeah, and we went over this a lot in the last one, so for those who have listened to it, we'll only go over it briefly, but the American version, which came out in 1962, was made for television. The original version that they were making as a joint production was supposed to go to television. This one we're watching went to theaters in Japan.
Yeah.
So, Joe, what did you think of the dialogue at the very beginning? We are about to reveal the most mysterious story ever told.
I thought that most mysterious story ever told. I think if your narrator is telling you that, or at least the scientist guy who functions as a narrator at the beginning of the film, and this is a really awkwardly filmed scene, by the way.
Breaking the fourth wall.
I think it might be promising a lot. I don't think you ever want to start the movie with "this is the greatest movie ever."
Well, most mysterious story ever told, and then at the end, it talks. They're exact same difference. At the end, it bloats itself the same way. It's like it gloats, or not bloats. But like it's just terrible because you look at Godzilla. You look at Godzilla, the original Gojira 54. It doesn't have to say anything about itself like that. Very simple opening, black and white title card. Gojira, you hear his roar and like what's supposed to be the atomic explosion, but the sound of his feet, and you don't know that at the beginning, but very simple, not overstated in any way. This one, I want to say, I'm going to use the word insulting a lot, Joe. I feel as if as audience members we're getting insulted by dialogue like that, where they're saying this is the most such in superlatives, the best, the worst. It's the best.
I would add a caveat that perhaps it's better in Japanese, but what's definitely not better in either English or Japanese is that man's fake rear projection driving, which may be the worst rear projection driving that I've ever seen.
Yeah, because a lot of rear projection driving, people make fun of it where they're having a conversation where they're like paying too closely attention to the person in the seat next to them. This guy is moving the wheel like almost 180, like 90 degrees, just huge turn in the wheel, and it's going straight.
Oh, it's a bumpy car ride, but it is not nearly as insane as what his hands suggest with the wheel movement, I would say. No. I think probably at the time, actors, there were just some that were good at the fake driving and then some that were bad at it. I would like to mark Jimmy Stewart as one who is especially good at the rear projection driving back in the 1950s when that was a very common thing to do. By the way, they still film most, in Hollywood productions at least, they still film most driving scenes almost the same way. They use a green screen and then mat it out later and then add the footage, but it really is basically the same thing. All the way up, I think the most recent example of very obvious kind of fake driving is probably Seinfeld, which used the rear projection driving a lot. I'm not sure if that was green screened and matted out or if that was an actual projected image like they used to do it back in the day. Yeah. But either way, it is almost as bad. But this takes the cake as the absolute worst fake driving.
Mostly for how he's steering. But Joe, we can't skip past this. So, what is the driving force of the beginning to get them to the to their destination, so we can get to Varan? Basically,
they're studying some very rare butterflies, which of course they run into in like a minute.
Yeah, and okay, they run into
this rare place in Japan, I guess.
Oh, I gotta rub my eyes, Joe, because this is terrible. They keep showing how they could have done this instead of just saying,
"Oh my gosh, here's the fake driving again." Look at that! Look at that! That is just terrible.
If he
was actually driving that way, man, they'd have flipped over by now.
Oh, easily. He certainly would not be going straight. There's no way there's that much play in the wheel. Anyway,
cameraman's really good. I think that's what they were supposed to like pretend.
Our narrator scientist, who actually ends up being the closest thing, or one of the closest things we'll get to a main character in this film, of which there really aren't any, or there are, but they're just barely present through the film. He tells us that these two, I believe they're both scientists, need to go to this lake where suddenly these butterflies have been found that are native to Siberia, and so they've been found in Japan off to this basically isolated area. And so they go there immediately. These scientists are the luckiest scientists ever. Day one, couple hours in, they find what they're looking for. He sticks it in his belt, squishes it, of course, finds the butterfly, captures it, just sticks it in the belt, and then yeah,
I am sticking it in.
But it's so quickly.
Oh, that butterfly is squished.
So quickly brushed over for the rest of the film. This whole butterfly thing, it's like so thinly veiled as just, this is how we get to Varan. Because they never even talk about butterflies. Butterflies are completely inconsequential to the rest of the film.
I believe Varan is basically this creature that the locals believe in, and locals or maybe believe in or know about, that there is in fact this creature that lives in the lake, which of course, unlike the American film, is not a lake where people swim in because there's a monster there and they know about it.
I gotta say, at least for most of it, the exposition is better than in the American. Like, we'll get to it, but Joe, when the scientist is talking about different periods of time, like ancient periods of time, he doesn't specify how long ago it was, which is like, whew,
yeah, he's not like, well, 2.5 years ago.
Years ago, yeah. Giving him a lot of leeway there. But so those people who went to look for the butterflies, they just die. They're just killed. Yeah, and all of a sudden, Joe, it took us
see
like...
wind, and they look up, they scream,
they fall over. It shows some boulders that we don't know where they're falling because it's all terrible camera work. And then terrible editing,
I think it's chaos. I think that's what they're showing, is
so
the chaos of the wind.
I was expecting them to get up or have something happen, but then we see newspapers being printed at a high rate, and it's like, oh, they're dead. They died.
One of the biggest inconsistencies I see with this film, and I wonder if it's because they shot the monster footage first and then had to like shove in the people. But Varan had to kill people in some way, I guess, to make it, worth something. And so the scenes with Varan, being shot, which we haven't seen yet. Of course, he's just this mystery that there might be a superstition of a monster in the lake or whatever. We see later that we see wind hitting people's faces, but whenever Varan is shot, there is no wind. It's just Varan standing there and doing destruction in his own way. So Varan has nothing to do with the wind.
Varan has no superpowers or extra powers.
Oh, he has wind powers.
Yes, his power
wind
is
turbine powers.
Every time he shows up,
when you're not looking at him.
If you've watched Japanese animation, so as to not perturb Joe, I'm going to state that correctly. If you've watched that, whenever there are power levels rising, so, Dragon Ball Z, over 9,000, the thing that everybody knows, whether you've watched Dragon Ball Z or any Japanese animation or not.
For years, I had no idea where that was from.
As those power levels are being shown, or showing themselves forth in the character, there's always wind whipping up everywhere. And I guess that's what Varan's showing off, is that he shows up and all of a sudden, whoosh, they're caught in like a hurricane. All the characters.
Yeah, but that's not shown when he is doing destruction of any kind. Like, you would think it wouldn't be that hard. I mean, if that was in fact his power from the get-go, which I doubt, you could take a leaf blower in the studio behind Varan when you're shooting him and maybe look like he's doing some wind damage. I don't know. Maybe something more powerful than the leaf blower, I am sure. Maybe that fan Steve Vai uses when he performs his guitar work. Have you seen that?
I was about to say, I've seen a Lamb of God live, and their drummer once, he had his hair down and a shirt off, and before they started, it's the intro like drum solo. Yeah, he had fans, so his long hair was like blown up in the air, and I was like, oh, that's only one of 3 times I've seen them. But yeah. Anyway, this movie. Hey Joe, how would you describe your viewing experience in this movie? Like, would you have one word, like a succinct word to describe it?
I would call it a one word. No.
Okay, all right. Give me a phrase, a couple sentences.
I would say better than the American, but still a roughly chopped together movie.
Yeah, I would just say boring.
Boring.
Because I mean, there's your opinion, there's mine, but like Son of Godzilla, that one's grotesque, horrifying, I would say. Gigantus, that one was annoying because of the narration.
What are you talking about, Drew? They're all great.
The last movie was garbage for just what we had to sit through it.
That was hard to watch.
Hard to watch garbage. This one is so dull. We're going to get to what the last half of the film, all it is, but it's throwaway. I was so bored.
Well, I think the first thing, the mistake that this movie makes, and I don't really know if I want to blame the filmmakers. I mean, we do have the all-star filmmaking crew here.
We really do, which surprises me
Tanaka,
so much.
Nakajima, Ishiro Honda, Eiji Tsuburaya. I mean, this is Ifukube for the score, right?
Yeah.
This is
score-wise, good.
This is everybody that we need for a good Godzilla movie, or a good kaiju movie, I should say.
It's nothing. Nothing like those.
They had to scrap together a broken down film project, and I guess this is what they had to come up with. But we don't really get a sink into any of the characters, which I think is what makes the film two-dimensional and sort of, I would say, yes, and dull in many ways, especially with the human story, which there really isn't one.
No.
We just kind of see people going, oh, what's this Varan thing? Get away from the monster, and that's really all
and yet
that we got.
Then they come back to it, even though they saw and destroy the village.
The guys who had a goal, all right? So you got a main character, and for most movies, they kind of go, I want this thing at the end of the first act, and they're going to try to get this thing. They either have a big success in the middle of the movie, or a big downfall in the middle of the movie, and then they'll either pick themselves up or they'll be destroyed by it. And at the end of the third act, that's where everything plays out. Did they get what they wanted all along, and what did they really need all along?
So this is how typically films structure themselves.
Most movies, yes, typically structure themselves this way. We had our guys who actually had a goal to find some butterflies.
Yeah, and those people were just killed. So
they were killed off.
Of no consequence to the story.
And so now these guys are like,
they've come to find them.
Yeah, let's try to figure out what's going on, I guess.
These villagers, the natives around this lake, which Varan lives by, they're convinced because of a priest who, he's just leading them in a cult there. As in, he's stated he has never seen Varan.
You mentioned when we were watching this, you said this was probably one of the better villager scenes that we've seen in these early Godzilla
movies. One of the least
offensive?
Yeah, least
maybe.
Offensive.
Yeah, these guys are Japanese. They didn't go to some faraway island. They went to a place in Japan that was remote.
They got extras which were Japanese.
Yeah, they always have extras which are Japanese.
Yeah, but whether or not
they may not be
faced.
Playing Japanese people ethnically, so it is less offensive. And I would add that I think the masks that they're all wearing, which are like these weird sort of Islander / Kabuki mask things,
the ones that
I think they look pretty cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because up to this point in the film, I mean, it was a little jarring having the two people who we believed were being set up as main characters in the film.
The guy who was
killed.
Terrible driver.
Yes, terrible driver, and his buddy who squishes butterflies. It was like, okay, they're being set up and then they're killed. So, okay, we're thrown for a little loop. Who are we going to latch on to next as audience members, as our main characters? It's these people. But, up to this point, not too much that was, taking me out of it. I was thinking this is good, and especially, like you said, with this scene, because they do it very tastefully with all the villagers wearing these masks, where at least it was that seems to have... There was a lot of effort probably put into that comparatively to just their outfits and blackface. And then a little boy runs away. He runs past the he runs boundaries.
To go get his dog, and he's going into the place with the evil creature that he's not supposed to be.
This priest, who I only call a cult leader because he's keeping him away from saving their little boy. This is exactly how the American version started out, with a woman who's just in tears.
That screaming woman, by the way, another screaming woman in Rodan, apparently. That's what I read.
Well,
she does look kind of familiar, but
what I was going to say, Joe, speaking of Rodan and this film, this movie was written by Shinichi Sekizawa, who we have from all these films, Son of Godzilla, many before that.
All the kind of crappy ones on.
Yeah, the less serious ones,
the less
for
serious,
sure.
Yes.
But then it was also written by someone named Ken Kuronuma. And this guy, he wrote Rodan. I don't know if he solely wrote
really?
Rodan, but he was going up, on the ladder because of writing Rodan. And I mean, that was a hit. Then he wrote this one, and it almost ruined his career because this one was not done.
I don't know, man. This is still. They had to cobble together a project. I don't know.
I know.
When that happens, I feel like it's nobody's fault. I mean, I'm sure they tried to make something out of it, and they didn't have the vetting process. They didn't have as much time to do their. To edit.
But then you gotta think
story.
Of being a writer and being an early on writer in the biz. I always want to say Hollywood, but really this is Japan, so it's not Hollywood.
It's still a
Japanese
large film industry,
filmmaking. The Japanese film industry. And if you're going on to try to write other films past this, and you only have Rodan and this movie as the biggest ones to your name, the second word gets out when you want to write a film that this was one you wrote. The studios they're not going to be coming calling your name. But he did end up writing on a TV series later, which was a tokusatsu.
He's been demoted.
Film. Yeah. So tokusatsu, special effects heavy film and TV. But so Joe, they keep losing the female protagonist in this. This is the first of of several times where she's
Where'd
just
she
lost.
go?
Hijinks, Joe. They're in the fog. They're in the fog, and the nerdy, scared character.
Damn it, we already went through this forest to try to find this stupid kid who was looking for a dog. Now we have to find this woman.
Yep, exactly. The damsel in distress trope. There you go.
I don't know if it's the damsel in distress trope. She just kind of gets lost.
Well, this one...
She's never picked up by the monster, and they're like, we must save her.
She is almost crushed by the monster when the tree falls on her. But
yeah, you're right.
It's just it's weird. It's okay. Yeah. Joe, what did you find out about this film? Interesting.
Well, one thing I found was that promotional materials for the film in Japan showed this incredible monster flying through the air, spread eagled against the sky with helicopters buzzing about it through the night as it as it scrambles for safety or whatever.
Yeah,
that's what's written here in our Bible, and I want to see that stuff because that's a promise that they did not keep for the audience members.
Nowhere to be found.
Who finally went and saw it.
There's literally two scenes where Varan is flying. And one of which is just a drawing of Varan slowly fading off into the distance. So it really isn't the suit actor. The promise of Varan flying, it goes away very quickly. You see it happen, and you're very excited for it. It was hype, and then then it's done. And he ends up, instead of flying to Japan, he's just swimming most of the way.
So. What our Bible has pointed out is that this is cinema's first quadruple threat monster. So he's capable of walking on land, climbing, swimming, and flying.
So basically flying, subsisting,
so
existing
he may
in
not
air.
have a superpower that they at least say, although we see the super wind.
Yeah. I mentioned that last time that he was
but he can do a lot of
stuff. But I want to correct myself. Last time I said diamphibian. It means he's something which is amphibious is something which can exist in water or on the land. But he can do all three.
Or on air. What would you call that?
Trimphibian.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right.
It's all three. But yeah, so he doesn't have superpowers.
Is there a real creature on the planet that does all those things?
Well, there are flying fish, but they don't fly. And I guess
they glide.
They glide,
but they can't live on land.
Oh, true. So that's still only two.
Yeah.
That's true. You know what? Varan. Oh, his names. Varan has names.
Yeah.
3. Last time we kept hearing Obaki, 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 Obaki. And once we accidentally heard Varan, they forgot to cut that part out. And this time they call him, let's see, right here. It's Baradagi Sanjin, I believe.
Yeah, I think that's what the villagers call him.
And that means mountain god Baradagi. And speaking of which, we're going to get translations here. Actually, of the films I've purchased from Sumo Gorilla, this is one of the cooler looking boxes. So in the back as well. It's Dai Kaiju Varan, which just means Giant Monster Varan, name of the film. So this mountain god Baradagi, which I don't know then where Varan comes from. It's somewhere.
They start calling him Varan later, and I honestly don't know why.
No, I remember.
It might be that the scientists call him that, and no one else calls him. That is a cool shot, by the way.
Yes.
The people looking in the wind, and
because at this point,
it still makes no sense.
At this point, we still had a lot of hope for this film. I mean, the shots look cool, the framing awesome. It's certainly a simplistic story where, honestly, it's not.
There's a monster and he comes out and he does some destruction. They kill him.
Yeah, exactly. What you see is like the base for the structure of this film is that the main protagonists that come to this island, their beliefs are obviously differ widely from these villagers, these rural villagers, because they don't believe that Varan exists. They believe that those men were just crushed by a landslide or something. And so it's their beliefs clashing with the natives. And it's like, basically, don't stumble into unexplored realms, which you can still do in these older films or in modern films, which take place years and years ago, because there's still much unexplored territory in the world. And, you never know what there might actually be out there. I mean, personally, I still hold the beliefs that Bigfoot and the Yeti and all that stuff are out there, but there's your backbone for the film, is the clash of belief systems from cultured people, in quotes, and these rural people.
So Nakajima, who mans the suit, which you said partially, and the only thing I'm seeing is that he was the sole one who manned the suit.
Okay.
That's probably my favorite shot in the movie.
Yeah,
the old guy doing the ritual thing.
They have a very low angle
tree
shot
hits into
of
him.
Varan, and it's very clear that he's right above, because it's almost a POV, because in the American version we didn't get that it was a POV, but in this one the priest he's to his last breath trying to get the monster to go away.
So Nakajima in the suit, he had to do a lot of practice in order to get that motion where he's walking on all fours. He didn't.
Okay.
Of course, a human being does not have the joints that a lizard does when it decides to walk on all fours. And what he did was he walked on his hands in that sort of lizard-like stance. Then they chose
hands
to avoid shooting the back legs because he was actually on his knees. On the back legs of the monster. So they tried not to shoot the feet ever with this movie. I honestly wasn't paying attention to the feet
last time. Well, here we are right now.
Yeah.
So you can't see that. That's true.
He is on his knees, but they got
on his knees.
They got houses in the way.
Yeah, because I was going to say
we're only noticing that because we're looking at it. I never noticed that he was on his knees.
Oh no! Until we had discovered that fact, not at all. So this is a man, baby crawling around in a giant monster suit, and he's supposed to be on all fours.
It's true. It was the giant monster suit. I do have a write up here. It was made of thinner material than other Toho monsters at the time. Which had its kind of plus and minuses. The fabric was made for more flexibility, probably to walk the way he did. But it offered less protection against the explosive charges wired to the costume.
Goodness. And because they were wired to the costume?
This is why apparently the full-scale Varan costume never suffers a direct hit. They tried to avoid damaging the suit.
That is really surprising that it avoided one, because there are several scenes in this film where he is shot with so many fireworks. They're just going off like bonkers at him.
I would argue in these early Godzilla / kaiju films, they hardly ever actually hit the monster.
Yeah. Wait, it's a rarity.
It's usually
it's
like
an accident.
Shoot at him, and then they're always like shooting at his knees, which is kind of just it's just funny.
It's something which seems to happen in tokusatsu, because Power Rangers, for one of them, is they're always having explosions around them. Like they're attacked, and then they go, oh,
can't ruin the suit,
and do like a flip. And yeah, the explosion happens right near them or behind them or just directly in front of them, never on them.
Some pretty decent village destruction scenes here.
Oh, yeah. I mean, despite having no superpowers, he's a very agile creature. He gets the job done. I want to say he seems like, I mean, this is all opinion and speculation, but seems like he would destroy faster than Godzilla, possibly. at a faster rate, but Godzilla's gonna
fly, he can climb, he can
he's
swim,
just moving around real quick. He's very agile, whereas Godzilla is your power beast, your super powered. Yeah, tanky, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, playing MMOs.
There you go.
You got your tank. Whereas he would be your knight, paladin, I don't know, your rusher.
Something that made me laugh out loud watching this film is, of course, after we see Varan destroying the village, we see newspaper clippings show up on the screen with these perfectly timed photos where apparently a photographer had ran as soon as he heard that Varan existed, ran to the top of the mountain and took pictures.
Quick pic of Varan emerging from the water. I actually believe because of the main protagonists now, the ones who survived and went on to look for our dead protagonists, one of them, I believe it's the nerdy one with the glasses, he had a camera with him, but he wouldn't have been at a high enough angle
climb up the mountain in order to be able to
he was right off the shore.
I'll get a high angle shot of this. This will be great. Hopefully I'll be able to time it so that he's in a perfect destruction pose.
Yeah.
Which is, what happened. The newspaper photographer acted very, very quickly, considering how remote this area is supposed to be and what kind of terrible driving it takes to get through the dirt roads.
Oh, yeah.
On an old Jeep.
We were shown how terrible the driving would have to be.
Exactly.
So I got to admit, I enjoy the candidness of this scientist with the very eccentric haircut. You
kept on mentioning his haircut over and over again. My hair turns into that after a while after I don't cut it. So.
Yeah, but are you an old man scientist too?
I could be.
I would. Yeah, you could be.
They don't know. They've never seen me. The audience.
You could be an old man scientist.
Yeah,
an old man Japanese scientist with long gray hair, flowing locks.
Of course.
But the military come in after Varan appears into his lab, and they ask him, what do we know about Varan? And he goes, absolutely nothing. So, candid. And then also,
I believe he's a T-Rex from the Cretaceous period, which was 2 million years ago. Oh, that'd be another scientist who would say that.
Right after Varan goes out and destroys all these, in the American version, they had to evacuate the villages, but the villages are destroyed, so I guess they don't have to do any evacuation. And at this point, they probably have to evacuate the people, the ones who survived. But Then here the scientist shows up in his golf attire. He needs an ascot to finish off his. Or wait, he's got these little weird things to
pen
put
holders.
pens.
Yeah.
Whatever. He's got this weird hat on.
He just looks kind of weird. He just looks kind of weird. I'll admit it.
He looks like he came out
weird
of this
blonde
trailer.
Japanese hair.
Yeah.
At least it seems blonde. It is a black and white film, of course.
Yeah. Instead of getting in a wardrobe, he just emerged from his trailer, and they were like, "Oh, we have your wardrobe for you to change into." No, I'm fine. But there's a lot. This movie gets very dull very quickly.
What are you saying, Drew?
It's about to get very dull. I'm surprised also at the tenacity of our protagonist and the scientist who showed up right next to the lake. I guess they thought they were going to be protected by the military because we see all the military come in at this point. Lots and lots and lots of military. And it makes sense in the Japanese version because Varan has emerged. In the American version, we see all these shots of military just coming.
They're just like, well, yeah, duh, they're here.
They're there to evacuate the villagers, but Varan has not emerged yet in the American version. So we were like, why are they sending so much military? But in this film, it makes sense.
Something I want to point out about this scene where all the military is getting set up, we actually have legitimate people in legitimate tanks, which is a rarity for these type of movies.
With all of these different
there
cannons,
are, however,
artillery.
Some model shots sprinkled throughout.
Very few.
And the models of the tanks, I just noticed, do not whatsoever match the real tanks that they used. So
much less articulated. They're less detailed for sure.
Yeah.
We noticed that, and then I had to compare it to Rodan. Whereas Rodan, when we're before Rodan emerges in any way, like a third of the way through the film, the first third, all we have is the giant bugs, the Meganulon. and tons of military show up, and they're extras, but military peer personnel, which for this era of Godzilla films especially, it's very rare to see. Less stock and reused footage, but actual military, lots of extras.
Yeah. And a
lot of military hardware.
This was a very low budget thing, but they had to scrap something, I guess, usable together.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's odd. I don't know why they thought that was the better choice, because it seems like based upon what they do with later movies and movies at this time, they rarely use real military personnel for more than like a second.
They learned where to allocate their resources, their budget, to effectively make a film, because
we say they learned, but they totally still just use a whole bunch of model tanks later on.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is they don't waste their budget on actual military, getting all the extras.
So the area that we see all the time, this lake in this remote village, or by this remote village in Japan, is kind of Varan's domain. Apparently, it was created in the studio with sort of extreme detail, and instead of what they normally did, which was put some like styrofoam painted rocks and stuff, they actually used real stones.
Oh, cool.
And like real like plants and stuff to create this sort of thing. So
are you talking about this shot that you keep saying?
I am talking about that stuff. Apparently those are real rocks.
Whenever Varan emerges, we do get quite nice scenery. It's always just one specific shot.
It's always the one shot, the one angle on it.
Yeah, between these two what look like cliffs, and actually that's always featured on the promotional images as well.
My source says that it's real stuff. So.
It looks good. Yeah. I mean, that's again, before we get to the last half of this film, which we're encroaching upon it, unfortunately, it's interesting, and it's somewhat captivating, and I was engaged. And then once you realize past the halfway point what just keeps going on, you're like just totally disinterested.
One of the coolest shots in this film is when they're putting down the
they're chemicals. I found that out.
Oh,
I had to read. So
these caps that are apparently filled with chemicals, they're going down this the water, and so obviously we had some sort of tank, and they would put these things down in slow motion. They would release some sort of white
it looks like Alka-Seltzer.
Maybe Alka-Seltzer thing. But seeing that, kind of them rippling these I don't know how to describe this, these
just like
bullets rippling through the water, it's
some sort of ammunition
slowly down. It's a very cool and kind of ominous shot.
Yeah, because you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, he's going to come out, but you don't know how pissed off he's going to be.
Very cool visual effect.
And so, up to this point, good film. It's got promise, at least. It's got promise to be.
What did you think about Varan when you first saw him in this? I don't remember Varan from whatever future Godzilla movie he shows up in, if I've seen it.
Destroy All Monsters.
Okay.
Only
then
film.
I haven't seen it. So never seeing Varan before, just hearing about Varan. What did you think the first time you saw him?
We compared him to Anguirus, you and I, but really he seems to be one of those monsters that's just there's a back cast, I want to say. I don't know if that's even the correct terminology at all, but the cast of Godzilla films. He has these heavy hitters that you're thinking so Godzilla's A. He's your A, your star. Then your B role would be even King Ghidorah, Mothra, definitely Mechagodzilla, stuff like that. And then behind that are monsters that will appear, such as Kumonga, a giant spider, and Anguirus and Varan. Ones that we know their names because we're fans, but otherwise they just kind of, because say a giant spider shows up, it's like, oh, that's a giant spider.
It's
and
cool.
To those people who, to those people who are in the know, oh, that's Kumonga. And then a giant lizard shows up, and everyone's like, oh, he's fighting a big lizard with spines on its back. To fans, that's Varan, that's cool, but to everyone else, it's just a monster.
I'm realizing as I'm going through many of these kaiju films, which I have not seen, it's mostly an educational experience.
Oh, yes. We are being schooled.
That's right.
We thought that some of them were bad, Joe. We're getting to
Oh, no, I don't know if they could ever be worse than the Varan American version.
That's what I'm saying. Is we'd watch some before that. I think
we hit the low point.
Low, yeah.
I thought I didn't think it would get any worse than Gigantus.
I really think they learned a lot from this film because it's just regarded so poorly by fans and critical reception, and it's like, okay,
I can see why.
When you have a bare bones structure for your storyline for a film, I picture it as here's an analogy, a nice one, I hope. You see Godzilla's skeleton at the end of Gojira, right? After he's destroyed by the oxygen destroyer.
Right.
So you see his skeleton. That's your skeleton for like a weak story where it has like the basic skeleton. You got your ghost Godzilla skeleton and there's nothing on the flesh, just the skeleton. This film is just the spine, a couple ribs, maybe a femur.
I think it's everything but the spine.
Okay. That's telling. But there's definitely no skull attached. It doesn't have all the. So it's like a few pieces of bones put together, and there's Varan.
Yeah, they're paleontologists having this movie project, and they get all these pieces, and they have to somehow have a guessing game of like, how do we make a decent movie out of this? And I think they did, for what they had to do, I think
decent,
they did okay.
Yeah, it barely fits the requirements for a monster film. Barely. It has a monster.
I think
the monster attacks things.
Frankly, but
it what?
I think that's the only requirement for a monster film.
That's what I'm saying, is it just barely fulfills them. There's no storyline around it. We know, Joe, I can't tell you a single thing about any of the characters in this film. The girl gets lost. That's
the girl gets lost a lot.
They have no real characteristics. They don't do anything aside from interact with a monster. There's no subplot at all. None whatsoever.
That's a good point. I'm struggling. I'm like, oh my God, I don't know anything about these characters.
I know. And then to speak of a subplot, it's like, even in your weakest of films, there's some plot running alongside the main one. And the main one in this, which we're supposed to care about Varan destroying things, but he just destroys things. I mean, I know nothing about... I know they're Japanese, so he's destroying places in Japan. He goes to Tokyo and all that.
Barely.
I didn't notice, but he has webbed fingers, so that's kind of cool.
Oh, I wonder what those are used for.
For agile swimming.
Is it swimming or is it flying?
Well, actually, yeah, because when he is on his hind legs... I'm really trying to pay attention, Joe, whether or not he lifts up his like elbows, because I want to know if the fins, the skin, the membrane, not the fins that exist there are there. Yeah, when he's not attempting to fly.
Yeah, because I've been paying attention to that.
But Joe, what you were saying earlier, I think they did a really good job hiding him being on his knees, because when he's on all fours, and it's supposed to be him crawling around on all fours, not on his knees, not baby crawling in a giant monster suit. Oh my gosh, that's so bad. They did a good job hiding it.
I would argue it's better hid than the fact that there is a man in the suit with Godzilla. But that's only because they chose to hide it in this movie.
Well, they had in the foreground, when he's destroying the village, all these houses, and so you don't see the back legs, and that's just great. Joe, that wasn't a miniature. Do you see that?
That was a miniature.
But there was a guy that was like...
I know, he popped in because he was in another frame of film. And it was a special effect.
That's awesome. It showed it so quickly. That's great.
The truck crashes down, and it's a miniature.
Miniature artillery.
And you can kind of tell because of the speed of it and like the weightlessness of it when it like hits the edge. And then a dude just kind of pops up, but it's a really quick shot, so it sells it pretty well.
Yeah.
But it is definitely a special effect.
Again,
shot.
Eiji Tsuburaya with these great quick shots effects.
They're always better when they're quick.
Yeah.
Steven Spielberg learned that on Jaws.
Hopefully not.
One frame longer, he said, and the shark would look fake.
Yeah. Hopefully not the entire special effect sequences cut together quickly, but a quick cut here and there. It does wonders to hide. To mask these.
Well, some of the fun is kind of the special effects. So.
Well, exactly, and I want to be involved in it. I want to believe in it, and you want to to see it and believe it looks good, and then you pause it on it, and you're like, "Ooh!" But our female protagonist has fallen victim. She's fallen to Varan, not died, but she's literally fallen and crushed, pinched underneath a tree. And it takes a moment as our main protagonists get back to base camp with the military, and they realize she's not there, and they have to go back and save her.
Whoops.
And still, again, I'm going to keep saying up to this point, I thought it was going to be good. I thought there was some salvaging to this film.
I don't know. I was just kind of like watching it half-heartedly for the monster.
What about after this,
see
though?
This monster again.
After this, all I could say, after he saves her and they get caught in a cave, Varan's clawing at them, I just thought, Varan, you better destroy something on land in Tokyo, because he was like getting bombarded in the ocean before he gets to Tokyo. They do a better job at attacking Varan in the ocean on his way to Tokyo than they ever do with Godzilla or any other monster.
Oh crap, he's here.
Yeah, exactly. With Varan, they're following him the whole way.
Godzilla's attacked this place like 26 times. I mean, can't we just have a watch on him?
Exactly. At this point, we should know his routes. We should know the route he takes from Monster Island here. We should have it like constant patrols. But
so when Varan is coming out of the lake, and I know we already passed this, and I don't think ever goes back into the lake at this point forward.
Nah, he's out.
He's slowly making his way to Tokyo here.
Yeah.
He's still in the village, of course. But when Varan's coming out of the lake, the way they got the water to churn up, I guess, is they attached a working fire hose underneath the water, and they slowly added more and more pressure to it, so it made that sort of that swirling, crazy water.
The water's breaking from underneath. Yeah.
So that's how they did that effect. I read about that. It's very cool.
Thanks for helping me understand.
It's water. It's not air.
What I'm saying is thank you for helping me understand Power Rangers a little more. I've been watching a lot of that, and every time the Dragon Zord emerges, that's the effect they're using.
Oh, is it?
The water's like bubbling.
Very
that
cool.
has to be it. And then its head emerges, and it looks so cool.
Here's the over-explosive truck shot. Of course, that truck earlier that we talked about, that was the model that the guy poked his head out of.
A model.
Varan hits past it with his tail, and then the truck, like in slow motion, because they had to sell the model shot, flips over. We get a one-frame cut, and then it explodes like crazy.
We were joking that this military hardware so easily explodes. You know, the military and army man, he's like, oh god, this stupid tank kicks the tire.
Guy gets immediately fired when he tries to light a cigarette near it.
Within 50 feet.
A very similar thing happens here that happens in the American recut, although I believe they use different special effects that they had to make specifically for the American recut when they go into a cave and then Varan's attacking it. It's totally different special effects work. Yeah. Which is kind of interesting, but they both use the same plot device. I don't believe that they were in talks with one another about how they were going to use this footage, but it's very interesting.
I know. I was also surprised that some of the footage, which I thought was just purely the American footage, was the chemicals being dropped down, and then to the fish, the dead fish popping up from the lake. Because honestly, I don't get this. I don't know if I entirely get this vibe from the film. But are we supposed to be somewhat pro Varan because of the method that they use to get Varan out? I mean, they use all these chemicals, and this was just a lake. And all of a sudden, man, here's your message. Man is encroaching upon the lake, and they killed all these fish out of the lake.
I wouldn't say so.
Okay.
Because at the beginning of the movie, of course, our heroes, our dear badly driving heroes, they go, and all they're looking for is to study butterflies.
Yeah.
And then Varan attacks for, frankly, no good reason.
None at all.
And
they trespassed.
Then they go looking for the guys that were killed, and then Varan comes out and destroys the entire village. Simply after, a child chased the dog where he wasn't supposed to chase the dog.
Yeah.
So I think Varan, unlike perhaps Rodan, or unlike perhaps Mothra initially, needs to be put down.
Yeah, okay, true. Varan's a more malicious beast.
Yes.
He's had less provocation to actually come forth. I mean, we provoked him pretty bad with the chemicals in the water, but at that point, he'd killed people.
Chibi, it's too much.
Honestly, though, he's a big menace, but he's so out of the way. Why not just leave him alone? At this point, I believe...
He's in Japan. They got to get rid of him.
True. And the scientists didn't really express an interest in like studying Varan, but perhaps that's something that's going on, I want to say.
This is interesting. So Varan, much like Godzilla, as we find out in Gigantus the Fire Monster.
Yeah,
Godzilla
we mentioned
raids
this
again.
last time. He likes his bright lights.
Yeah, they're attracted to the bright lights. I do find it funny. You could almost, I'm not sure how much Godzilla Steven Spielberg ever watched, but it is kind of funny. You could draw a line, just like, oh, bright lights, and then there's the scene in Jurassic Park where he's waving the flashlight around, or the what do you call
flare?
He's the flare around, and of course he gets him to go kill the lawyer.
After he gets his legs crushed. Yeah. Good old Jeff Goldblum.
Jeff Goldblum, shirtless, sexy Jeff Goldblum
with a. I'm pretty sure he has a mullet in that too.
Yeah, it's just a early '90s haircut. It's like something between a mullet and just kind of a wild man.
I'm trying to look for it, Joe. I don't think, because later on, well, we're about to get to our flying scene.
I see his webs either.
No,
that's what you're about to say.
Well, I wasn't going for that, so they just retract, apparently, into his flesh. But the scientist later on at the climax of the film, I would say, he states that he saw Varan consuming one of those flares. I didn't see that.
Dun, 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 dun.
That is totally a different suit.
This part
totally a different suit.
is
the front of that
not
suit looks different.
In the American version.
What do you think?
My jaw hit the floor watching this one.
They use the same sound effect that as Rodan is speeding by.
Was Gamera made by this point? I don't know what year Gamera came out.
I want to say mid 60s, maybe early 60s.
Yeah,
because certainly whenever Son of Godzilla was, which is mid 60s.
That reminds me a lot of.
They were aping that success.
Gamera or Gamera. I'm not sure where to stress the syllables, but Gamera or Gamera. Honestly, it's kind of a very similar shape. Both these like turtle-looking creatures. Of course, he's only turtle-looking because they webbed his feet together. But the turtle-looking creatures flying through the air. Very interesting.
Certainly
image.
more rounded, but yeah.
Yeah.
And then we see this stock footage of planes. Okay, at this point,
at least
Joe,
they're real planes.
From here, yes, exactly. From this point, just chop it right here onward. Boring movie. Special effects cool.
I dig that boat turn, which is totally a model, and no boat that big turns like that, but that was pretty incredible.
If it did, that would be churning up a lot of water. The force of a boat that large moving in at that type of an angle. Mm-hmm. And that again was a model too, but it looks great. The model work in this film is Eiji Tsuburaya. I mean, he did the effects, so model work pristine.
I don't know the actor's name, but we do have some Godzilla reoccurring actors,
featured extra
coming out. It's not a featured extra if they talk; it's a bit part.
So this one's a bit part.
Yeah, it's a bit
because he has like a line.
He has a few lines. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, Joe, I fail. I fail at what I could say. I have some things that are a little bit of a stretch, but I mean, we were exhausting resources for the last film. So what do you got, Joe? What do you got for me?
Well,
bring it.
I do have. We're gonna hit some scenes coming up that I do have some information on how they did the special effects work on.
Okay. Well, are we there yet?
Oh, whoa, Dr. Serizawa.
Yeah, we thought he'd be in more of this. He's not, and he looks a little smug, like smiley. And I want to say it's because
stupid TV movie.
No, well, I hadn't even thought of that. But yes, I was thinking it's because he survived. Serizawa survived.
That's true.
Gojira. I mean, he was in Rodan.
He's always playing scientist, though, and it's like.
But at this point, this is his
you
third.
Strangely look like if Dr. Serizawa, the famed scientist who got rid of Godzilla. If he didn't have an eye patch, man, you would look just like him. Then he's like, I don't even know who that is. Who's this Dr. Serizawa?
By the way, what was your name again? I'm Dr. Sawazara.
Yeah.
Sawazara. But
he's always changing his identity. I think he's just...
I'm surprised he never
that's
changed
his ploy.
I'm surprised he never changed his haircut, but I believe what we stated in a very earlier podcast is that he probably parts his hair to a different side, like one side or the other.
Oh my gosh.
That's what Clark Kent does in the early Superman films.
I have a movie idea.
Plug it.
It's the Dr. Serizawa film. It's a movie about Dr. Serizawa. And it's his years in hiding.
Okay.
And then eventually at the end, he gets back together with Emiko after her husband passes away.
Aww.
And he reveals that he was alive the entire time.
I believe both of the... No, I don't know about Emiko's actress, but at least I believe, is still alive.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So in their twilight years, they could,
either him or the lady that's...
This could still happen, Joe. I was thinking you were...
Dude, it's like a beautiful family drama.
I was thinking you were going to tie in all of his aliases through all these monster films.
No, that's what you do.
Okay,
you're tying them in, but it's more. You're not going to have the actual footage from the movies, but it'd be about his. He's trying to
undercover, yet out in the open.
Reconnect with mankind before his death. Maybe he has cancer or something.
Oh, he's writing his memoir, and through his memoir is where we're getting these scenes from. Right.
And all these all these children that he's birthed. Are coming back to... Wait, that's turning into a totally different movie, but
yet his love is still for Emiko.
I will write a script, dude. I'll write it.
All right, I'll produce somehow.
So Varan in the water. Apparently there are shots where you can see where Nakajima's breathing holes were in the suit.
Oh, really?
Water coming out of him. It was not a good situation, him in the Varan suit underwater.
A large bulk of this, I want to say even a good quarter, maybe a third of the film, Varans are emerging from water or doing things in water. So it is absolutely no wonder why in the next films the suit was wrecked. Like, they couldn't use it in Destroy All Monsters. He has some small cameos, but that's it. Because, they wanted to use Varan. They wanted to have him fight. But they didn't want to pay to have the suit repaired or have another Varan suit made. So, and I mean, can you blame him? Varan didn't do that well. Varan the movie. So...
So these special effects shots are the ones I have a little bit of information from.
Okay.
We just saw that footage reused earlier. Okay, that's interesting.
We keep seeing
we see
a shot from planes up above, 3 planes
once
over
again,
the ocean.
I still dig stock footage of military stuff and planes over fake planes.
Oh, totally.
I still dig it.
Even if the film that they're filmed on is a little different than the rest of the film.
The most recent
grainier.
Movie where they used stock footage that I know about was Deer Hunter. They had some real footage of Vietnam, and it doesn't really it doesn't look quite right because the Vietnam footage was 16 millimeter.
Yeah, you're talking about the stock of the film.
And then the Deer Hunter stuff that they filmed with everybody else, Robert De Niro,
more pristine.
And they tried to color correct it so that it would match that footage, and it just never quite worked. With these black and white films, however,
you can get away with it easier.
I think you can get away with it because the inconsistencies are sometimes really large, but I kind of dig it. So here's the thing. What they did to make the water kind of wave around as if it were actually in the ocean. I mean, they're in the studio right now shooting at Varan, who's swimming in the water towards Tokyo.
Yeah, with a really good matte painting in the background, I want to say.
Yeah, I mean, better than most.
Oh, yeah. Well, and it also helps that it's black and white, but,
Always helps that it's black and white. Anyway, these ocean waves, very convincing ocean waves, I would add. Apparently, they had, a helicopter blades above that would
churn up the water,
churn up a ton of water from the blast of the air.
So above the water blast,
above it.
Oh,
yeah,
mimicking ocean waves.
Okay. Yeah, mimicking ocean waves, and I think it looks pretty darn good.
Yeah, I want to say, especially with the film being over cranked, correct, so that it's slowed down.
Yes,
because then the waves look choppy and slow like the real ocean. Yeah, Joe. So we just saw this right here. It's going to happen again. The really iconic image of Varan trying to smack the plane out of the sky. There aren't that many iconic Varan images, but the shot of him shooting out of the water, propelling himself upwards, so you see his torso and his arms flailing at a plane. Attempt 1, he missed the plane, but it looks just really iconic. For some reason, the suit looks a lot better than that. Right here. The suit looks great with the water dripping off it. This time, destroys the plane.
Does he look a bit like Creature from the Black Lagoon?
I was telling you, Joe, I totally see the inspirations from it. I don't know when. I'm going to have to look that up right now. Creature from the Black Lagoon was released, but I'm 95% sure it was pre-Varan. The submerged scenes with Varan just swimming that are going to come up here shortly, where he's hiding out underwater, and Joe had to point out how clever Varan is that he stays stationary behind a rock, so they can't pinpoint him with radar, with a sonar underneath the water. And so, quite an intelligent giant creature, to be honest. I didn't realize in any way that was happening in the American version. We saw the same footage, but it just didn't dawn on us, surely because the Japanese wasn't translated either. But it shows the boat above him going along, and Varan's, the shot in the foreground is Varan's head, just his face, and he's behind a rock. And he's kind of moving his head from one side to the other as the boat passes in the background. So a clever, agile monster compared to certainly not dim-witted. Godzilla's intelligence seems to vary from film to film, whereas some films like Hedorah and, I don't know, he just comes up with these crazy fight moves sometimes, or like is very clever. In Hedorah, it's almost like we're going to get to that film, but he's just more intelligent compared to, like, say, original Godzilla. Gojira goes on land, walks in like a straight path, and destroys everything along the way. He seems to have a wider radius of destruction due to his atomic breath and his tail that he uses a lot. But Varan, like, especially when it was destroying the village, it seems like systematic destruction because he's like zigzagging, just crushing everything. Oh yeah, a little smaller, a little more cunning. Perhaps smarter. Perhaps.
I would like to redact my statement about using stock footage, because they use stock footage all the time for movies, and that was a dumb thing to say. But it's more like this was actual like war footage, and they put war footage in another movie. That's what I mean. I don't necessarily mean, because I know they sometimes they're like, well, we need a shot of these mountain ranges, and we're not going to go get the shot. We're just going to buy the shot of someone having done it.
And certainly being a studio, they had those shots available.
Yeah, I mean, so that's kind of how they're used now. You have stock footage libraries, and you go get things that kind of match your film.
Yeah.
Usually wide shots of some kind, or some sort of nature shot, or a cityscape sort of shots all the time. Okay. They use stock footage for those sort of things, but it's different for me. It's like a different thing.
I was going to say, especially
these
for
have
like
people, they have action in it, and at the time it was film, so
especially for like a cityscape, like a skyline in these, or even in an ocean line. I don't know, you got the skyline, which would be like mountain ridges, possibly cityscape, which is like, you see the city in profile in the distance. I don't know, ocean, whatever view. But in movies like this, yes, they certainly opt to use the stock footage, but it seems like they use a lot of miniatures too, which I appreciate very much. And that's what they use as the skyline, is what I'm saying.
I always giggle at the super like jiggly tanks. That's I mean, I love tanks. But
jiggly tanks. What do you
so I mean, it's a model tank because of just how much it kind of moves.
Yeah, and especially if they don't bother slowing down the footage.
Yeah.
Man, not so menacing there, Varan. Just not. You ain't no Godzilla. That's all I'm saying.
He ain't no Godzilla. He's like a weird iguanodon thing.
Yeah, I want to correct myself. Not really correct myself, but go on to say the scientist said earlier, and I probably butchered the pronunciation of this in the last one. Varan, commonly known, either comes from the scientific genie. Either comes from, I am butchering
the
everything.
Scientific genie, which exists, believe me.
Which is completely opposite of each other. The scientific genus name Varanus, commonly known as the monitor lizard, so we keep calling him a lizard, or he comes from the extinct synapsid family name Varanapodae. He says Varanapode in this film as an actual line of dialogue, the scientist. And so you got to think that's where Varan comes from.
Is it Varanapode or Varanapod, or is that like two different things? Or those are probably actual real terms that I'm just not familiar with.
Some scientific name for them. But just like how Rodan was a truncation of Pteranodon, shortening Pteranodon, Rodan. You got Varanipode, or however you say it, Varan.
I wonder
if you're going full American, you say Varan. Here in America, we watch Varan.
Varan. I guess it's Baron or Varan.
We're gonna get Baragon or Baragon.
All right, these are the awkward shots of Varan. God damn it!
That quickly.
These are the awkward shots of Varan in the water. Like he knows exactly. I gotta hide behind this little rock. This triangular
I know
rock.
What sonar is.
Yeah, apparently they're looking for him with sonar, and he's like hiding from the sonar by going up next to the rock, which I thought was
he's basically
funny.
Strapped up against a rock, and facing the camera.
Maybe he's just down there, and those are just just shots saying that he's just down there, just chilling.
I'm thinking he's just tired. But, I mean, who knows how far he flew?
It's funny to see this shot, which looks like he's hiding behind a rock, with them going, "Oh, we're looking for him on radar," which suggests, just because of the juxtaposition of both of those things, it suggests that, in fact, he is hiding from the radar itself, and that he knows what the radar is. He can feel somehow radar signals, I guess, being bounced off of him.
Stretching this, Joe. Yes, he's so highly sensitive to this that
this monster is really smart. But yet, when they throw bombs at him later in the film, he tries to eat them. So that same monster smart. Who was hiding perfectly hiding it within these rocks underneath the ocean. He knew exactly what to do.
Because I can give him this much for being smart. I can give him this much that, well, not smart, but being distracted, I guess. Bright lights, flares, slowly falling from the air. They shoot him up high. Flares, flare. Mm-hmm. So the light goes off and they slowly fall down because they're parachuted for whatever. Well, probably to maximize the effect of him being distracted. Okay, I can see the distraction. I can see no reason why he would try to eat them.
None.
Because you got a cat.
So what is
you got a cat or are dogs attracted to laser pens?
I think some probably are.
Okay, but cats certainly are.
It's been a long time since I was bored enough to watch the Animal Channel and
Joe, they might go
Animal Planet.
They might go after it. But do they ever try to eat
Animals
it?
Funniest videos or whatever it is.
I've never seen a cat try to eat a laser.
They always try to bite. They bite the string and stuff like that, but the creature can probably feel that it's kind of hot and maybe doesn't want the super super flare, which I'm sure is.
It doesn't take much to touch. It doesn't take much intelligence to realize heat. Stay away from heat.
Heat bad.
Heat bad. It hurts me.
But
yet he wants to eat it.
Once again, of course, he understands that radar is trying to find him and he needs to get away.
There are goofs in this film for sure. One of them being, I guess there was actually earlier on, Joe, for the DVD restored for the Japanese DVD release. There's at the beginning of a military conference, we see a clapboard quickly pulled off camera at the beginning of shooting. So it was still there. It was taken out in the original cut, but restored for the DVD release. We noticed this, but wires holding Baran's tail. I say Baran because that's how they keep. That's what they write in for the monster's name.
Everybody's like, if you know what the movie is called, here's what it is.
Varan with a B. But the wire holding Varan's tail are visible when he attacks the airport. That's true. I noticed that. And, we're just going to get to it because several short clips during his attack on Tokyo are borrowed from Godzilla and then includes an actual shot of Godzilla's tail. It's not Varan's tail. Varan's tail ain't that strong. That's all I'm saying. Varan has...
It also doesn't look like the same tail at all.
Nah. I mean, I don't really know because we don't get that much footage either from this film or in any film of Varan. I don't know how far down those spines go, the sharp spikes, but Godzilla's the spikes that are like the several rows of spikes go all the way to the tip of his tail normally. Here's Serizawa.
There's Serizawa again. It'd be funny if he was like a different scientist on the screen, and like while they're watching it, one guy's head just kind of turns, and
they start to
Dr. Serizawa, and it's like, wait a minute.
The next day, he mysteriously disappears.
It's a different guy. But
shows up in another area of Japan as a scientist.
I'm sorry.
That's the reason.
Have a long lost twin.
That's the reason he's in Rodan and that mining community, because he was off, kind of undercover in a mining community.
Dude, all this stuff, he's always undercover. And he's always still a scientist. And he's always like trying to help the cause of getting rid of these things. But he's never like, I put him in the lake. I have some ideas. It's never like, I need to use the oxygen destroyer again.
Serizawa.
It depends on how far in the creature gets to Tokyo.
I want to say all of this that Serizawa is doing, the actor being Harada, he's doing it benevolently. He's doing it for the good of mankind. As in, he has survived. He faked his own death very well. He's keeping that knowledge just in case it's ever necessary.
Good thing this is pre-facial recognition.
Oh yeah, technology. Are you talking about people?
The government would be after him, looking for the man who created the oxygen destroyer, and he's hiding away.
Any cameras that he's on, security cameras anywhere, could pick up his face.
Yeah.
But this is the 50s, so our technology has not gotten that far. Oh, and we forgot to mention, Joe, they have the conspiracy. They have a miniature Varan on the military map. There's a tiny toy dinosaur in the Godzilla.
So like a planning map, like our ships are here and this creature is here or whatever. They went through the process of having a toy company make the Varan,
a tiny Varan action figure,
a perfectly scaled Varan toy,
very detailed
for their.
That totally wasn't something strategy that the special effects people used to model Varan.
God, that's hilarious.
Yeah, because in I believe it was Raids, it could have been Godzilla.
I mean, this creature's been alive for like a day, and they were like, "Hurry! Get us a Varan toy."
Joe, even in the 50s, those otaku worked quick, man.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
There you go.
They're just obsessed with giant monsters, and so far there's only been... We have to distinguish, Joe. I'm going to see... Because eventually, once we reach the end of this era of Godzilla films, we're going to go back to the beginning and go through and do all of Toho monster films. And whether they're a monster feature, which is all we've done so far. I believe coming up we may get to films which have a monster in them, a giant monster, because it's got to be a giant monster. But so far we've always done giant monster feature films, as in they're the feature, they're the headline attraction. I mean, the movie, it's called Giant Monster Varan, so what do you think you're getting? And Godzilla and Mothra and Rodan. But possibly... next on the chopping block is
Giant Monster All-Out Attack or whatever you're talking. Not Giant Monster Varan.
No, next one's Frankenstein Conquers the World. So that one has Frankenstein and Baragon fighting. So that's another giant monster feature.
Frankenstein was just the doctor, right?
After that,
people know that. Can people get over that? Like, can people figure that out?
Germany certainly can't. They call Godzilla Frankenstein over and over in the titles of these films. I don't know in the dialogue throughout the film if they refer to Godzilla as Frankenstein, but at least certainly in the title. And then, Joe, we're going to have to watch a movie called Atragon, which is... feature. It has Manda in it, which is going to be in Godzilla and Destroy All Monsters.
It's Manda.
Manda. He's a long... You know those Chinese dragons? The ones that are like in parades?
Yeah.
Kind of like that. Giant serpentine
parades I've
dragon.
never seen, but I have seen on TV.
Exactly.
Yeah, those ones.
Everybody knows what those are. But I'm wondering, because in the posters I've seen for that film, it appears as if he might just be a giant monster in the film. It's not a giant monster feature.
That's really
that could
odd.
be our first. Well, but we're going to get to them, because what I'm wondering is post-Godzilla, which ushered in this era of, giant monsters and all this stuff, I wondered if because then we got Raid 6 months later, we got Rodan, we got this, we got Mothra, and it just keeps going. But I'm wondering if up to this point, how many Toho-produced films had giant monsters in them, which were not giant monster features, just a movie that had a giant monster, like not as the main attraction, but it just like had a main
It would be
story.
hard to come up with a plot that
man.
that
Well,
did that.
then Atragon. I was saying
that would be interesting.
Atragon seemed to feature on their posters a vehicle that was similar to something from like Fantastic Voyage. So it's probably something like that. And then Manda just shows up. Who knows? Not confirmed, but I'm curious.
I'm currently trying to browse for apparently the airport, which is apparently the building that Varan smashes into, is like a very, very like detailed recreation of a real airport in Japan.
Haneda
taken from Haneda. Yeah. I was looking for the name. Like every single detail, they used pictures of the place and they recreated it on set.
So that's a little bit like how they kept destroying the Diet building.
Yeah. They know how to make a good Diet building.
Yeah, and destroy one too
at Toho.
Know how to demolish one.
But we are. Statement. You're kind of right. I mean, some of the military. What would you call this? Military porn is a term I've heard. I think I heard it from
not literal porn, but it's just the gratuitous.
No, it's
showing.
like when I said torture porn to my sister once. Like I was like, like a torture porn movie, and she was like, "What?" She thought I meant like
actual pornography.
Yeah. But I meant a torture porn movie, which is like Saw, or it's like a Human Centipede. It's just movies where a guy takes in someone into his basement or something and
Tusk.
and tortures them. Tusk is another torture porn movie, exactly.
But
you're watching the movie to be grossed out by torture.
You
could
something
call this someone. I believe there was a UCLA talk by a Godzilla historian. And I heard him call Godzilla movies or kaiju movies like this one. They eventually just became, military porn.
And so really you're saying pornography, but what we're referring to there because...
watching something for pure pleasure and there's no substance in it.
Yeah. That's what
it's
gratuitous showing of something that people just are obsessed with. I mean, people talk about food porn nowadays. That gets thrown out a lot.
Yeah, the porn suffix. Yeah. This is sort of a military porn for the last, 20 minutes of the film. And,
honestly, it's been half because where have our main characters been?
They were on the plane getting to Tokyo so that they could watch this destruction
Unlike
happen.
in Rodan and Godzilla, since there is no subplot, the main character of this film becomes Varan, a non-speaking character.
Yeah, look, he's coming for us.
Yeah, they just keep attacking him. They're attacking him. Each sequence, one after another, it's just attacking Varan.
I'm not whatsoever interested in what's going on here because I don't care about the characters, but the guy that's taking the military truck with the bombs on it,
I want to say his name is Kenji,
has the balls to drive right underneath Varan and run off with this like TNT loaded right behind him, and the monster itself. He's also kind of doing a half-ass jog, when you're crossing the street and you're at the stoplight.
You're just trying to appear to the people in like cars that you're actually hurrying along, but you're not. You're just like, I'm moving.
He's kind of running that way. I mean, he's a brave fellow, and I love the way the sequence is shot. I mean, personally, visually,
I feel so bad for.
Here we go. We're gonna see a very famous
Kenji. What's his name?
It's Nakajima, right here.
No, Nakajima. Sorry, Nakajima. That's what I was.
So Nakajima's in the suit. They got the truck filled with explosives under it,
which of course
he says to fire, and bam, hit right in the groin with a gigantic explosion, and apparently actually burned Nakajima's groin in real life. And you see the creature collapse for a second. That was a real collapse of absolute pain. Which I
wonder if it's past this point. Joe, we haven't seen confirmed in any of these sources that Nakajima was replaced for part of this. But, Nakajima's like on the... We were feeling bad in the story, like in the film, for Varan for that having happened to him. And yet, we are actually feeling terrible for the suit actor at this point.
So I'm not honestly sure if the take that they used in the movie was the take that got his crotch burned. But
if it was enough to burn his crotch, I would think they would have had to repair the suit. Perhaps.
They actually had him redo it, apparently. And what they did was they found a bunch of hemp leaves and
Nakajima,
put it in the bottom of the groin of the suit to protect him on the second.
I know that one of your main attraction, like one of the attractions,
he lives
of you,
dangerously, Drew.
That's what he did.
Dangerous.
That was the reason. He considered himself an asset, was his stamina, his willingness to do these things, and yet, come on, man, have some dignity, dude. Take two for the
dignity is gone after he gets hit in the crotch with the explosion.
His dignity was gone after being dropped in Rodan.
Also,
his dignity was gone.
He never birthed any children. That's odd. I don't know what happened there.
No progenitors for Nakajima. All of the kaiju all of the giant monster Godzilla fans are his children.
We do finally, he destroyed a village, but destroying a village, I'm sick of island stuff right now. Destroying a village is kind of meh, but he finally does get to do some real destruction at the very end of this movie.
Barely. It's mostly out of frame. Look, he just destroyed
you gotta hide the legs, Drew. Right?
He crushed a building, and yet it wasn't even in the frame.
Yeah, he's destroying apparently this Haneda airport or whatever building.
Man, he didn't get on his hind legs for very long. It seems as if he's not able to do much destruction.
I dig the destruction here
on all four.
Destruction porn. Kaiju porn. Oh, that's probably something else.
Yeah, that's Joe, we're a non-explicit podcast.
We are a non-explicit podcast. I don't even know what porn is. Let's move on.
24, 25-year-old men, no idea what that is. We live for kaiju films. That's all we do. He is not as powerful, and here we are. We see all these intercuts. So he's destroying
shots of the destruction. I dig a lot.
From far away, we're actually getting to see him destroy things. One thing that I gotta mention that I think is cool.
It's the Godzilla shots.
Because the buildings that he's destroying at Haneda Airport bear no resemblance to the close-up shots of the destruction of the buildings from Godzilla, which they use. They cut from Varan destroying these airport buildings to things which look like they're made from brick and are like in the center of a city. I mean, it's up close, but it's definitely not the same buildings.
So one thing you thought was cool?
Just the destruction. Yeah, I had something I can't remember.
Yeah, I could tell.
Joe. It was that he's looking down. Although the eyes are facing forward on Varan, his whole head is pointed down. So like his neck, the head is looking downward at the destruction and at the military, because otherwise, we've mentioned this in the past, but bear with me for a moment. I failed to mention it. Seems like when you have a monster whose eyes are facing forward, because those eyes aren't moving in the suit, they might in some like close-up shots of heads where they get the eyes to move, to Google back and forth, but they're just forward. So if the monster's destroying things without his head being facing down, he might be destroying things below him. But there's this he's peering off into the distance, actually. And yet in Godzilla, the original, his eyes were always down. Right. So although the suit actor didn't ever have his neck down and his head facing the ground, so he's looking down, the eyes were always peering downward.
I would like to point out a really cool shot. He throws an actual airplane.
Cool.
Hits into a building and then lands on top of a bus. And I thought that was legit, and that is from this movie.
Yeah, so finally not reused with something unfortunate for Toho.
Well, what do you think the eyes? What do you think the eyes mean though? Like, the looking down or the looking forward?
It just is so much more menacing, so much more daunting when they're looking down at the destruction. Godzilla in the original, aside from being black and white, a lot of the times being lit by like flickering fire of like the destruction that he's caused around him, which super menacing. He's peering at them while he's crushing them, and that's terrifying. No, but then when you have two monsters fighting each other and their eyes on the suit are looking forward, it seems that there's more of a purpose behind that, because then two monsters can look at each other when they're fighting, right? Otherwise, if the eyes are looking forward if they're destroying stuff and their head isn't bent downward, they're destroying things below them, but they're looking off into the distance, and you're just like, okay.
What's the opposite of cross-eyed, Drew?
Derp-eyed.
Derp-eyed, okay. So...
Wait, so
I would say that I think it's much more embarrassing when a monster is derp-eyed than anything. I don't think it instills fear or really anything else into the thing. It just makes watching these things sometimes embarrassing.
That's something that you really think that they could get past in the special effects, and then especially when they're looking at exactly Joe's doing it. When you're looking at the dailies, you're looking at the monsters, and you're probably, I mean, if you, depending on how much you shot that day, you're probably rewatching. Dailies are what you shot that day, and you're going over.
Godzilla looks like in this movie.
Do we have any more budget to? Nope. How much can we hide?
Yeah. Can we not have
mask it? So have them do a lot of destruction, a lot of smoke. Hide the eyes. Like, we want the facial features showing, but hide the eyes. Can we give Godzilla sunglasses? Would that be okay?
So I think we got like 7 minutes left in this movie, and something at the very beginning of the movie that I just didn't get the chance to say was they were looking for the butterflies right at the beginning, right? And they see a butterfly on the leaf, which is a fake butterfly, but I went for a second, I was like, okay, I know it's fake, but that's pretty convincing looking butterfly. And then it starts flying around. I'm like, that's a pretty convincing looking butterfly flying around, which they probably just put a little
string,
fake butterfly on a string on a fishing pole and just kind of like swung it around. But I think it would have looked pretty real had it not for the like one little shining light of string that hit for a couple frames. I think it would have looked pretty convincing. That's one thing. There's a Sergio Leone movie called what is it called? Oh shoot, the West thing.
How the West Was Won.
Once Upon a Time in the West. Okay. And at the beginning of the movie, there's this fly buzzing around this dude, and then he catches the fly.
Yeah.
In his gun, and he like listens to the fly in his gun, and the fly buzzing around him was real.
Yeah.
But then there's this one part where you see a close up of the fly in a separate shot. Up against this wood, and apparently it was like a dead fly. They put a little piece of metal or something on the bottom of it, and then they had a magnet on the other side, and they moved the fly around.
Whoa.
It was a way cool effect.
I was going to say, that's very clever.
And I didn't notice how they did it until I was like watching that movie on a really big screen, and I was like, I know exactly what they did, and it's incredible.
There is magnetic dust, so somehow they possibly could have affixed some of the magnetic dust.
I don't know. They affixed something in order to magnetically move the fly. It says the shot where the guy is looking at the fly around him, real, and then they, in order to match it, created this sequence with the fly that was fake.
Have you seen? Okay, yeah, to get away from flies,
but I mean, it's much better than like what they do nowadays. Which I think the least convincing thing in CGI is a bug.
Yeah, are you talking about like, you're not talking monster bugs? You're talking about little tiny,
any bug.
Yeah,
any bug, and
especially also because
they always make a big deal out of it because it always means something. If there's a bug in a scene now,
I was gonna say
they're always really fake looking.
Well, you're an actor acting with something which isn't actually there, and that's already complicated to deal with. I mean, okay, Varan's about to die.
He looks like the Cookie Monster in that shot.
Nom, 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 nom.
And I would like to point out, by the way, his tail, which of course we see the Godzilla tail earlier smashing a building.
Oh, wow.
His tail has spikes going all the way down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, good. So then it could have been, but again.
No. What I'm saying is that was definitely Godzilla's tail because Varan has spikes going all the way down.
Oh. Godzilla's tail does not, is what you're saying?
It does not match.
Oh, gotcha.
How dare they?
How dare they recycle? Toho, we're not cheap. Yes, you are.
Oh, they totally are. Especially at this point.
Witnessed by the fact that this film exists.
TV movie that they probably lost money on. I don't know.
But you know what? They've created memories for us. And I wanted, that's...
Yep, there's Godzilla's tail not matching whatsoever.
Yeah. It actually looks way more detailed.
Monsters always look best in silhouette, don't they?
Oh, yeah. Well, and in profile. I totally mistakenly said last podcast that I thought that Varan looked good from the front, like facing the front when he's facing the camera.
It looks absolutely terrible.
In profile, looks pretty cool.
Yeah. So Varan, of course, swallows the bombs. One of the bombs goes off, and he's like, "Oh, it hurts."
He's scurrying back into the sea, dipping his head into the ocean.
Goes back into the sea, I guess, to cool down. I don't know what's going on here.
The ultimate monster cliche. He leaves via ocean, just swims away.
But let's say the real thing here. Let's say the truth is that he's going into the sea so that they only blow up the water and then don't have to blow up the suit to figure out how to do that.
Oh, yeah. Well, at least, are you saying that he explodes internally?
Yeah, there's a bomb on the inside, Drew.
Yeah, I know. I think
the last thing we see is
though.
No, we're about to see the big explosion in the water.
Oh, that really happened. I didn't even remember that.
Look at this.
And then, come on, kill Varan.
It's somewhat.
Kill
we got a few minutes left.
Kill
of the movie.
Varan.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, that wasn't just him submerging himself.
Oh wait, that might have been him submerging, but there was a weird cut
all
there.
It was. Nope.
That's the
definitely an explosion. So
yeah, there we go. There we go.
Here we get our stock footage of like H-bombs.
That's what I was looking for. I'm like, I thought it was more than that, but maybe not.
Depth charges just erupting. The water around it just becoming like a volcano.
And awesome stuff.
So it took an oxygen destroyer to blow up Godzilla. Apparently, this is some sort of
maybe if Godzilla
gunpowder.
swallowed an atomic bomb,
he would become superpowered.
It would depend on the Godzilla. That's
well,
for sure.
our current era Godzilla would certainly not be harmed by that. I don't believe.
Once again, the movie ends as have many kaiju films so far, ended with our heroes in quotes are these nameless and I don't know, descriptionless characters throughout this movie, looking completely out into the sea after the monster is finally gone in some way. And then in this case, an awesome explosion from the inside. I don't know how Varan ever survives and comes back for another movie, because much like in Jaws, he blew up from the inside.
Godzilla to Godzilla Raids Again, Joe. It's another Godzilla. And so, I think we just got another Varan.
I mean, that is probably possible.
All right.
So the movie is over, and we do have some
before we get to this, what do you rate Varan?
A rate? I don't rate movies. I rank movies.
Sorry.
I think...
Misspoke.
I think it's... Is there... Okay, it's better than the English language version of it.
Is it better than Gigantus?
It is way better than Gigantus.
All right. Is it better than Raids? I believe Raids is the next one.
Godzilla Raids...
We're just at the bottom. They're all jumbled up at the bottom.
And this and Godzilla Raids Again both kind of have the same problems, but I think the imagery in Godzilla Raids Again is better. I'm going to go ahead and rank it just below Godzilla Raids Again.
Yeah, I was going to say that too. I really like the characters in Godzilla Raids Again. The storyline's kind of weak. Anguirus dies real quick, and then after
I wouldn't say really like the characters, but
I did.
I with them.
I'm partial to a comedic relief character, and one of the best was in
one of my favorite things, and a shot that's actually stuck with me, and I didn't expect it to so far.
From this film?
No, from Godzilla Raids Again.
Okay.
In this film, that explosion at the end, I was like, what? I don't remember the little dip of water.
I think I know what. Let me guess, because I think I know what shot you're talking about. Is it the one where he's on the ice?
No.
And the explosion's behind him? Okay, never mind.
No. But there was some cool shots in that place too.
Yeah.
But there was a scene where the characters are looking out of the window and they see it's a painting, but it's pretty cool looking, and the living room interior with the painting outside of the on fire stuff going outside.
And this is Raids?
This is Godzilla Raids Again. I like that picture. I don't know. It just sticks with me as something that's pretty cool. So I'm going to go ahead and say that image is sticking with me, and that Varan probably won't.
I know that I agreed with Joe for his
except
ranking
for that first one,
the American version of Varan the Unbelievable. I have to agree with your ranking of this one as well.
Yeah. All right. So we do have an announcement, guys. So Godzilla Podcast is hemorrhaging money from the...
We're bleeding, much like
network.
Shin Gojira being bombed in his back.
And there was
everywhere.
There was a quiet announcement on the Ultima Final Fantasy stuff, which is, of course, our other podcasts. Well, not your other podcast, my other podcast. And
Joe getting a little... I'm full of himself there.
Podcast king, Drew.
You host a couple.
Yeah, I host a few. Anyway, the Godzilla podcast does cost money to keep running.
Yes.
And it would be very great that if you think it's worth it, to please support us on Patreon. It is patreon.com/Godzilla podcast. And we'll go through the rewards and such. But yeah, basically, we're losing money. The show costs $32 a month, and we usually have 1 or 2 episodes a month. And so our thing for Patreon is going to be per episode. So however much you think, from $1 and up, however much you think that an episode is worth it, we would be very gracious. Grateful for your if you would like to donate. And you can go to GodzillaPodcast.com and click the Patreon button, or once again, patreon.com/Godzilla podcast. Let's talk about what our first goal is, our $15 goal, which, by the way, we already have a Patreon donor.
Yeah, Anthony Catton.
Anthony Catton has pledged his hard-earned money, and
$2.
we are sitting at a beautiful $2 per commentary. So
that currently allows Anthony access to all Patreon exclusive content,
which we will have at a certain rate.
Yes, this is a brand new
if
Patreon.
We decide to put some behind the scenes stuff in there. I like to play around with the Patreon thing every once in a while. Put something interesting on Ultimas. So
great.
I assume it'll be the same thing here.
Yeah.
So our first goal is, of course, $15, and that $15 gives you a Patreon exclusive riff tracks style. So not our normal style of commentary, but a riff track style where we get a crap all over Gigantus the Fire Monster once again.
Jokes galore.
So if you want that, that's going to be at $15 per commentary. Our next goal being
$25. We're going to start giving away 1 free kaiju movie per month to a randomly selected Patreon donor.
Yes,
that does mean that if we reach $25 a month, that means you're eligible to win
per episode.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, per
it's not per month. It's per episode.
It says per month. You're gonna have to change that.
Oh, the wording says per month, but it says right here that it's per commentary.
That's $2. That's how much we make per commentary.
Yeah.
So you're meaning
we don't have regular episodes, so I didn't feel right about putting it as per month in case we didn't have one in a month, which has happened before.
But I'm still confused, Joe. We're going to be giving away 1 free kaiju movie per episode,
but per month we will be giving 1 free kaiju movie.
Okay, all right.
That doesn't mean that
is what I said.
Patreon's sorry.
Okay. So
all right.
Per month.
We were both mixed up.
You are eligible to win that more than once due to the fact that we'll just be randomly selecting them from our Patreon donors.
So if you want some...
you can start stacking up kaiju films, honestly.
Yeah, if you're the only donor at $25 per episode, that will be the case. And at, of course, $35 per commentary. If we put out 1 a month, that covers our cost of our show. And so at that point... we will. We may be convinced to do some Zone Fighter, which is, of course, a series that features Godzilla in it. Zone Fighter commentaries.
We would be getting that through Sumo, and there is no English subtitles.
No English subtitles, which should be quite entertaining.
Hilarious.
Again,
this is all Patreon exclusive
reward
content.
Tiers are $1 more per commentary. Is a special thank you.
And
thank you, and Anthony Catton.
Joe,
thank you very much.
Previously, we were just talking about all together reward tiers. Like if we get to that with all of them stacked together, these are
so those are our goals,
rewards.
And then there's individual reward tiers.
These ones we're talking about
$2 or more per
rewards.
commentary. They get you the Patreon exclusive content, like the random Patreon donor who gets a Godzilla DVD or any kaiju movie DVD. Sorry, and then of course a rich riff track style commentary, which will be to Patreon exclusive donors. Pledge $5 or more per commentary, and you get a free custom-made kaiju sticker. We're trying to figure out what kaiju sticker would be fine as far as copyright is concerned, so I'm still working on that.
If there are any fans out there want to do a drawing,
$10 or more per commentary gets an invite to the person who pledges $10 or more per commentary. They get to come on the show via Skype, not for a commentary, but to just talk about Godzilla.
Probably lasts half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour. We'll talk to you.
Something like that. And we would be glad to have some people
love to discuss
different types of
giant monsters with people.
And even if you only pledge $10 for like one commentary, we'll keep to it. So if you ever did pledge $10 at one point, you're always invited to come on for at least one episode and talk to us about your love for kaiju movies.
I gotta say, Joe, you should scroll up. Yeah. For Comrade Yui, we used your fan art.
We did use your fan art for the
banner.
For the banner. I didn't have anything I could use for the banner, and I was like, hold on a second. I got something.
Of course, we didn't feature a Godzilla in there, but we featured ourselves.
Oh, there's Godzilla in the back. There's destruction.
Leg,
yeah, his legs are back there. Look at that.
So thank you very much.
It's pretty awesome. So yeah, once again, patreon.com/Godzilla Podcast, and you can go to GodzillaPodcast.com.
And of course, once we hit tiers even higher than that, there are even more rewards. But we will get to that once we get there.
All right. So we'll stop begging for now, and we'll just give you small reminders in the future.
Thank you.
Just what happens.
And there's also the Amazon link and the PayPal.
Yep.
But those then, Joe,
GodzillaPodcast.
Do we have a phone number?
Currently the message says, this is Ultimate Final Fantasy, the Ultimate Final Fantasy podcast. Feel free to leave us a message, but if you want to leave us a Godzilla message on that phone line, feel free. I mean, we all use the same equipment here, so
this is Geekdom Entertainment.
385-204-3921, 385-204-3921 if you want to leave us a message. And we do have a comment here, our feedback part of the show. What did Milag32 say about Varan the Unbelievable from last time?
Hey, sorry, I didn't post for Son of Godzilla, but...
Oh, yeah, he's been posting every once in a while.
Not really much to say. It's lackluster at best, yes.
Yeah, I agree.
I appreciate Kumonga. His entry in the series was great, but disappointingly short. That's true. He only appeared in Son of Godzilla, Destroy All Monsters Attack, and Godzilla Final Wars. It's not a highlight among the series. He's talking about Varan the Unbelievable. On to barely... Oh, no. He's talking about Son of Godzilla not being a highlight. On to barely more inhabitable waters, i.e. Varan.
There you go.
I can't say too much about the American version as I do not own it, and you don't need to. I only own the Japanese version, which is fine. It's okay. It's a little boring. In my opinion, very boring. And from what I've heard previously, and now including your opinions, it is the far superior one.
Well, if you got anyone who has an Amazon Prime account, it's free right now.
Yeah, that's the American version. So the Japanese version does not have any of the American scenes or actors in it, which makes for a more concise. So which makes for a more concise film in the Japanese version. At one point, you guys were confused about why Varan was eating the parachutes, explained in the Japanese version. After hearing your guys' opinions, I'm happy not to have paid for it. Not sure if you do need both versions of Frankenstein Conquers the World. It's merely a difference that the U.S. version cut in about 5 minutes of footage and the loss of Nick Adams voicing his own role.
So in the Japanese version, Nick Adams voices his own role, but in the US
American version, he does. Because there wouldn't be... It would have to be in Japanese for the Japanese version.
So the U.S. cut 5 minutes of footage. The grammatical structure says, and the loss of Nick Adams' voice in his own role, is suggesting that the Japanese version has his original voice. I will look that up and see, because maybe there's just a little mistake there. But thank you, Milag32, for posting on our website. That's GodzillaPodcast.com. Drew, I don't have anything else right now.
I don't either, really.
What's our next movie?
Frankenstein Conquers the World.
Joe,
we're going to be currently, as Milag suggested, we're only going to be viewing the Japanese version due to the fact that Frankenstein Conquers the World, the U.S. version on DVD, is $40. Yeah, typically we're
Japanese
paying anywhere
version,
between...
Let's go.
We're paying approximately roughly $12-ish per DVD.
Not bad.
Or Blu-ray. Yeah, $10 to $12, but they're usually
Pretty
more like $12
for DVD.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could get those on Blu-ray, which is...
we all do. True.
Yes. The ones which are available.
That one company who finally one day decides to spend the money to get the rights to all the movies and all the different versions of the movie, that company will be hailed by Godzilla fans.
Yeah. Well, I'm absolutely stoked for Frankenstein Conquers the World. That is the prequel to a fan favorite, apparently, of any kaiju films.
The Mysterians?
No. Oh my goodness.
Destroy All Monsters?
No. It's the War of the Gargantuans.
Oh, okay.
The prequel to that. Nick Adams, who was in Astro Monster, a fan favorite from the Godzilla series. He's going to be in Frankenstein Conquers the World, and I believe his love interest as well from Astro Monster
That is interesting.
is going to be in Frankenstein Conquers the World. So yeah, that's going to feature Baragon, who's going to show up and destroy all monsters. That's the reason we're going on to that film before Destroy All Monsters.
So one last thing, if you want to leave us an iTunes review, we will be forever thankful. And thank you for everybody who ever talks to us on Twitter or anything like that. I'm at Joseph DeGollier.
I'm at Drew Daybell or Gojira Jaeger. Jaeger.
On Twitter.
Yeah, on Twitter. Joe, let's do it. There's another giveaway. I'm going to get it Monday.
My goodness.
We'll get this
Drew,
10-inch
you're giving
figure.
so much away.
Joe, well, it's the holidays.
Okay.
Let's get in that giving spirit.
All right. What are you giving away, Drew?
Mini Mecha Godzilla figure. He's going to be like the 10-inch figure that I have of Godzilla 1954.
Sweet.
And so, yeah, that's what your iTunes reviews or your message on our contact page can earn you. Just give us a review. It helps in the...
It helps in the rankings.
Absolutely. In the iTunes rankings and Google search rankings. But, we want to... I love the camaraderie. We talked about how warm and fuzzy and welcome the kaiju community is. They're kind, and we're appreciative of it.
It's
and
unusual
we have fun.
for a fan community.
Oh, yeah, especially the Reddit. The Reddit scenes. of all the fandoms that I search up on Reddit and check out nearly daily, Godzilla is one of the kinder. So thank you for that, and thank you for listening, and we really appreciate any donations or not, because it will be free to you if you so choose to make it so.
All right. So who gives us our theme song?
Mecha G.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys next time.
Keep it G.